My story isn't a weight loss transformation. My story started when I joined the Marine Corps. Before then, I was so happy, full of life. I played sports. Hell, I ran at least 2 times a week. Running and being active was just how I coped with life. Making it through Marine Corps basic training was the biggest achievement of my life. I met so many great people, and I finally felt like I was where I was supposed to be. In April of 2012, I went through combat training. During that time, I suffered a stress fracture in a very sensitive part of my hips. It happened during our final hike. I was in so much pain, but I knew I had to finish. Not just for myself, but for my battle buddy and the rest of my platoon, or group. So I put most of my weight on my opposite side, which was my body weight and the weight of a 90-pound pack, and I just kept pushing. It wasn't until the morning after that I felt the aftermath of pushing myself through the entire hike. It's the clearest memory I have and a feeling that I'll never forget. I woke up on the top bunk, put my socks on, lifted myself down from my bed. I took one step. All of the blood rushed from my head. My entire body turned pale. Not a single sound came from my mouth, but tears ran from my face. I knew something was not okay. It wasn't until 3 or 4 weeks later that I finally got the MRI that showed my fracture. It was a very rocky road from that point forward. I had good days and bad. I started developing chronic pain and muscle spasms in my pelvis. I became very depressed and anxious. I couldn't run, I couldn't work out, I couldn't do normal Marine things. Hell, I couldn't even do normal people things. Eventually the fracture healed, but the rest of my hips did not. My chronic pain kept me from doing so much. I've developed back problems and a lot more. The part that hit me the hardest was my depression. I let it define who I was. I turned into a person I didn't know. I wasn't smiling, happy, positive me. I was depressed, anxious, sad, and in constant pain. In September 2013, I was informed that not only would my pain never go away, not only could I not do the things that I loved so dearly, but I was also being discharged from the Marines. My world was falling apart. After that, I became so engulfed in my depression and pain that I didn't care about anything anymore except my husband. He had been the only thing that kept me going. There were nights, too many to count, where he would just hold me while I cried myself to sleep. I cried from the pain, from the sadness, and from the worst thing of all, I lost the one thing that I thought I was meant to do in this crazy thing called life. I wouldn't be part of the military anymore. Once I was relieved from active duty in May of 2014, I felt very alone. My depression got worse, my days began mixing together. I was on so many types of medicine, from narcotics and muscle relaxers to antidepressants and acid reflux medicine. I found my days being spent on the couch eating whatever I could find. There were a few times where I started eating healthier and attempting to work out, but every time I did, I hurt my back or my hips. I felt so alone, sad, useless, and so angry. In 2014, it just flew by. We bought our first home, we got married, and then there was nothing. So in November of 2014, I decided to get a gym membership. We lived right by the ocean, and I wanted to be bikini ready for the summer. I felt like I didn't know what I was doing there. I felt so insecure. This was a gym full of beautiful people and of course Marines. I didn't feel like I belonged around those people. I felt pitiful, so I stopped going to the gym. That same month, I ran across an Instagram ad for a coaching opportunity. I thought it sounded interesting and needed something to take my mind off of my situation. After emailing back and forth, I didn't know if it was for me, so I just let it go. In January of the next year, I had decided I needed to do it. I needed to do something to pull myself out of this pit of depression and self-pity. I was already familiar with the company and their programs. In high school, I did P90X and hip-hop abs. Plus, it was going to push me to be healthy again, and I couldn't stand being as skinny and as weak as I was. Oh, let me tell you, these ladies changed my life. They were so inspiring and uplifting. They were changing lives. Hell, they helped change mine. They were giving people the tools they needed to be healthy, to lose weight, and like me, to help their mental state. And I was starting to be happy again. I could stay and work from home. I didn't have to worry about pain because I was able to accommodate myself. The workouts were non-weight bearing and I could do them at my own pace. I had tried to work with a trainer, but it just didn't work. I have to move very slow through my fitness journey, and he couldn't work with my injuries. Before I knew it, I was starting to feel better about myself. I found out what was making my anxiety worse, and I learned new ways to cope with my depression. I found people who I could relate to in so many different ways, and I was finding myself. I was falling in love with myself again. Then, like the snap of your fingers, like the drop of a pin, everything was gone. I stopped being a coach. I stopped working out. I was more depressed than ever. There was a lot of added stress on my husband, myself, and our marriage. My husband wasn't doing well, and I ended up moving back home so that we could give one another space. He was still in the Marines, so he stayed in North Carolina. Before I knew it, I was depressed and more anxious than ever, and it felt like my life was falling apart once again. After a few months of attempting to work an actual job, I had to quit. I was not on the right medication, I was emotionally unstable and very depressed, and my pain was increasing significantly. In November, I did what's called a Silkies hike. It's an event put together for veterans who just need camaraderie back in their lives. It brings veterans together to just be veterans. There I met and talked with some great people who inspired me to keep pushing. They inspired me to be alive. What I was doing wasn't living. I was staying at my parents' house, depressed and hiding from the world. I was living in constant physical and emotional pain. I knew that I needed to find myself again. So I started my workout programs again, I started working out, and I started eating healthy. I started my meal replacement shakes, and I decided that I wanted to fix myself. I got off my antidepressants and started seeing a therapist. I got healthy. I had fallen in love with myself all over again, and I felt like a new person. The best part, my marriage fell back together. I learned that if we don't love ourselves as individuals, then we can't love each other how we deserve to be loved. In January, I decided that I needed to get back to sharing my experience with people. I needed to be the person who was an inspiration to my family, my friends, and even complete strangers. I'm back. I am healthier and happier than ever, and thanks to my husband, my family, my dog Charlie, my amazing team of coaches, and most importantly, my decision to take back my life, I am living again. I refuse to go back to the life that I was living. I will only get better from here on out.